Welcome to God's Gems podcast show. I'm your lovely host, Minister Amina Jarogi, and I want to welcome you on to tonight's episode. Before we do get into it, I want to remind you to go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Those of you who are watching us on YouTube, and for those of you who are watching us on Facebook, go ahead and make sure that you follow our page so you can get those notifications when we go live and to keep up with our upcoming topics and our guests. So I am so excited about tonight's guest. This woman of God, she is an author, a life coach, and a domestic violence advocate. And I just believe that her story is so powerful. I was blessed to be able to read her book and see some of the works that she's doing online. And I believe that you all are in for a treat because I believe that her story is going to empower you and encourage you. So I want you all to help me welcome author, life coach, and domestic violence advocate, Tiffany Myers. And Tiffany, how are you tonight?
I am excellent. Actually, I'm simply excellent. I can't say anything else. I just had a birthday, turned 54, and by
Wow.
God's grace, I'm excellent.
No, you don't look no 54. You look amazing.
Well, to
Okay.
God be the glory.
Yes, God is awesome. You look very, very beautiful. And I read your book, and listen, you do not look like what you've been through.
Yes.
You do not, and I just think that that just speaks to the redemption power of God, because you know when sometimes when people will share their story with you, you can look at them and be like, "Girl, you look like you've been through all that." But when I look at you, I'm just like, if you didn't tell me this happened, I would have never thought that this happened to you. So I just think that you are just a personified of God's grace
Yeah,
and his redeeming power, because I
definitely.
don't think that anyone would look at you and think that this was your story. Okay, so we're going to be talking about your book.
Hmm.
I thought it was normal. And your book is about how you overcame domestic violence and talking about intergenerational trauma and all of that. And I just think that this needs to be heard because I don't believe that the church really deals a lot with domestic violence or really has a safe place for a lot of women where they can talk about these issues and really get help.
Hmm.
So I love the fact that not only did you share your story, but you are also a life coach and you do also have a foundation and so many things to help empower women who have went through what you've gone through. So I want you to just first of all just share with us what inspired you to share your story.
Well, one of the main things that inspired me to share my story was breaking out of the shame.
Hmm.
One thing about domestic violence victims and victims of abuse is they are shaped by the silence. And
Mm.
breaking the silence, the barrier of silence, the code of silence is one of the greatest things that women struggle with when they're coming out of this type of relationship because the silence is what has kept them comfortable. It's kept them, if they don't know, if someone doesn't know I'm going through this, I'm safe, I'm going to be okay. But actually, domestic violence thrives in silence. And so
Wow.
I had to break the code of silence because I was getting older. And again, in my book, I share how it was beginning to take an effect on my body
Mm.
physically. I was beginning to bear signs of it. And I was keenly aware of what was going on to me. I wasn't a person that was blind to what was going on at the point that I began to get physically sick in my body. I knew that something was wrong and I knew that it was trauma. I knew that it was the locked up story on the inside of me. And
Wow.
so, in order to break that, I had to break the code of silence. And that means that I had to tell my story and be vulnerable. That if
Hmm.
people judge me, it wasn't on me, it was on them. And I wasn't the woman that looked how it looked on the outside, the woman with the makeup, the woman with the eyelashes, and the woman with the hair, that behind that woman was an afraid little girl that was being abused, going back home, praying and fasting, and being a leader in the church, and all of these things that are glamorous. However, I was being abused at home.
Wow.
So that was one of the reasons I needed to break the shame. I needed to break that code of silence that I had carried since I was a little girl.
Wow. And I think that I never knew, and after I read the book, I never really knew how it thrives in silence. Because you spoke about silence throughout the book as well,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, wow. I think that that is a way that the enemy keeps people just trapped
Mm-hmm.
into, a situation like that, by making you feel like, you got to stay quiet and you can't share it, and then also shame,
Right.
shame and the silence. So I love that you are shedding light on that, because
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that many women that experience what you experienced, um, feel that same way, and that's giving them the boldness to be able to say, okay, I need to open up my mouth, and I need to, step out and get free and get help.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that, and I just applaud you that you are sharing your story and
Thank you.
helping other women, because like I said, we really don't talk about these issues in church.
Right.
I can't remember not one time ever hearing like real conversations around domestic violence, or intergenerational trauma, and just really trauma in general. Like
Mm-hmm.
we kind of stay away from those topics in the house of God, but people are facing real issues, and to the point to where sometimes people will start feeling like, this thing is a scam.
Right.
I don't really know if coming to church every week is really doing it for me. I'm going through all these things at home, and I have a lot of traumatic issues that has happened, and no one is speaking to it.
Right.
So it's important that you are sharing your story.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what was the moment that you realized that, okay, something had to change?
As I said, I had carried this for years.
Mm-hmm.
So I was married for almost 30 years. So I had carried this silence and the shame for years because I knew I was in a relationship that was abusive. I did not understand the depth of it
Mm-hmm.
for a long time. So even though I was in the relationship, I didn't really understand domestic violence. I didn't even understand the term domestic violence. I thought my definition of domestic violence was gangs that are shooting up South Central, North Central. That was my definition of domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that when men physically put their hands on you, that's domestic violence. I did not know, and all of these things I didn't know. We go to school to learn, right? But no one
Mm-hmm.
taught me that the relationship you're in is abusive. I modeled what I seen my mom get into. I modeled what I seen my family history. So no one told me that it was abuse. The breaking came when I physically began to get sick in my body. And I knew was carrying the trauma, and my body was beginning to fight against itself. And in the book, I talk about sitting in front of the doctor and the doctor telling me, listen, there's either two things. Your blood count is so low that you either have HIV or you have cancer.
Wow.
And I'm looking at this doctor as a little girl, like just so confused, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying in my mind, I'm a married woman, I go to church, I'm a leader in the church, I'm thinking all of these things mean something to God, right?
Yeah.
And actually, they don't. Um, I begin to get physically sick in my body. And when I began to get physically sick, went to the doctor. Thank God I didn't have cancer, and but I had an autoimmune disease, and my body was beginning to turn on itself and fight against itself. I had
Mm-hmm.
lived in the state of trauma for so long, fight, flight, or freeze. This was my body's default method. I
Wow.
lived in fear for over 30 some odd years. So my body was like, hey, we can't do this with you anymore. Like, this is not the way to live. And it began to fight against itself. And, me getting education on it and beginning to do some research and find out exactly what was going on and how much this relationship that I was in and the relationship that I was covering up and pretending was killing me.
Wow. Now, another thing that you did talk about in the book, when you were with your ex-husband, you also talked about emotional abuse was also another form of domestic violence. Can you just share with our audience more about that? Because I don't think a lot of people realize that emotional abuse is also like abuse as well, but it is also a form of domestic violence. So can you just talk about that a little more?
Of course, I think, to be honest, emotional abuse is worse than physical abuse
Wow.
because it's blows on your mind. It's the blows and the attack on your mental stability, the breakdown of a person mentally. It's almost like giving someone, what do they call, antifreeze, and watching them die slowly and knowing that you are the one that's causing their death. Emotional abuse is one of the most toxic behaviors ever, because this is what God gave us to feel, right? We have
Right.
love. He gave us these emotions to embrace. I can't tell you how many women that I speak to, all we have ever felt is the what I call low vibrational emotions. We don't know the awe of God. We don't know, because we've never experienced these things. All we've experienced is being called out our name or giving up our authenticity for attachment. So I have to give up who I am in order for you to accept me. Emotional abuse, coming home, the stonewalling, the gaslighting, the making you doubt who you are, in a sense, is killing women slowly. So it's a form of abuse that I believe is one of the most toxic abuse, emotional abuse there is narcissistic abuse. The man that's standing in front of you, that's supposed to love you, you're supposed to be in a relationship with. However, he's breaking you down slowly. Not in a way that's outwardly where you can see, but it's in a way internally where it's killing you on the inside. And so emotional abuse is one of the most toxic forms of abuse. And so many women, so many people in our nation are suffering because this is why everybody needs boundaries. Why do we need boundaries? So why is everybody talking about boundaries? Obviously, we can't do relationships in a healthy manner. This is why we need boundaries, because we can't do relationships in a healthy manner. And to be honest, the CDC has domestic violence posted as a national pandemic.
Wow. Wow. I didn't even know that.
Yes. Before there was coronavirus, there was domestic violence.
Oh my goodness. Wow. And I agree with what you're saying, that emotional abuse is definitely way worse, because it's like once it's going on in the mind. I mean, it's because you can't get away from your mind. You know,
Right.
like if you're being physically abused, you can physically leave and get
Right.
away from the abuse.
Right.
But when it's up here in your head, it's like I can't get away from what's going on up here.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with that, and I think that we underestimate emotional abuse.
Right.
Because when you're talking about dealing with the psychological side of things,
The impact.
it's definitely the impact. It's way more severe. Now, I know that you do share about your healing journey, and you are a woman of faith.
Yes.
You are a woman of God. Just share with us how, your faith, how that supported you through your journey of healing.
Well, one of the things I knew was that I was going to have to heal from this. I knew that this was going to be a long ordeal. I knew that coming away and breaking away from the relationship, there was going to be quite a bit of healing that need to be take place, because anytime there is a divorce, whether it's for domestic violence or whatever the reason is, there's always a rip, and if that rip is not repaired, then it will eventually affect you going into your future. So God really began to deal with me like in a closet, and he began to take me on this journey. And oftentimes we're praying in a defense mechanism, right? Oh, God, do this to my the person who abused me, or the person who, and one of the things that God shared with me, he's like, we're not going to do this way. He said, I don't want you to ever pray a prayer that would cause fire, because again, I'm a woman of faith and I'm an intercessor. I'm an intercessor by nature. I know how to cease fire on the enemy, right? We know how to pray these prayers that, like David prayed, Psalms 35, right? God, do this to them, do that. And God says, this is not about them, him. This is about you. And one of the things I want you to do is to remember that in order for you to heal, there has to be a healing. I have to heal your heart.
Yes.
And so, even though it was an abusive marriage, it was still all I knew. I thought it was normal. This was all I knew. And so God says, I'm going to walk you through this journey. And this journey is going to be me and you. So I knew that I had to take God's hand I was desperately afraid, full of fear, uncertain about my future, even uncertain about the decision I made to walk away. So, in this course of healing, God began to deal with me as a father would deal with a child.
Yes.
And this was an aspect of God that I needed more than anything, the fathering aspect, for him to take his daughter and now begin to mold her life back together again, piece by piece by piece. And so the healing journey is a very freeing journey, but it is a journey that a woman of faith like me, I have to tell you, it is a journey where forgiveness has to take place.
Yes.
You have to walk through that path of forgiveness, holding God's hand. And it is definitely something that is doable. That cross, that salvation is healing. A part of our redemption is healing. And so I went on the journey with God. I'm still on that journey with God.
Yes.
It's an ever evolving journey. So I'll always get to one layer and say, God, oh, I'm glad I'm here. And then he's like, okay, we got to go up again some more. I'm like, oh God, okay.
Yes.
So it's a journey of discovery for a lot of women who never knew themselves, and rediscovery for some women. So
Wow. And I think that we don't realize that healing in general, it is a journey. You know, sometimes we think that it just stops at, maybe you came down to the altar and they lay hands on you that one time and okay, that's it. But it is a journey. It's not something that just happens just in one day, but it's a daily thing. And especially when you're talking about God healing our hearts and, just trying to discover your identity and just everything just starting all over from the beginning,
Right.
that is a process,
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think that when we understand healing is a process, we have to show ourselves some grace.
Yeah.
We got to be gentle on ourselves, because when you've been through so much and you're just like, I just wanted to be just snap your finger and
Yes.
that's it.
Yeah.
But it's like healing does not work like that. I wish it did.
I wish it did.
But
too.
it does not, so you have to be patient with yourself, and just take it one day at a time. And that's what I love about God. He's so gracious.
Oh my God.
And he and I love that you're saying where he loves us as a father. And when we're going through our healing journey, that's what we need. We need the love of our Father. I don't want to feel judged. I don't want to. No, I just want my Father to just love me and just show me His grace, show me that He cares and He understands.
Yeah.
So that's powerful what you're saying. Now you do have your foundation, the Holes Foundation. Now tell us more about that, because like I said in the beginning, not only are you sharing your story, but you're helping other women. So talk to us about your foundation.
Oh, the Hose Foundation. Hose stands for Healing Our Legacy, Embracing Strength. That's what the acronym stands for.
Okay.
Healing Our Legacy, Embracing Strength. And the Hose Foundation, it was birthed out of my story. It was birthed out of my pain. It was birthed out of my experience. And through that experience, I believe that every woman has the right to heal in a sterile environment.
Yes.
And the reason I say that is because oftentimes, as mothers, grandmothers, women of faith, the demand on our life is so great that we don't get to go on an island and say, you know what? Ooh, I'm just gonna sit. No, most mothers, they have children that are looking at them bleed. They have children that are looking at them bent over with infirmity for 18 years. Most mothers, they are still inflicted with the pain of their past and their experience, but they still have to mother. They still have to go to work. They still have to get their degrees. We still have to live. We still have to nurture other people because we're nurturers by nature.
Yes.
So if the nurturer is broken and she's pouring from a broken cup, automatically she's going to pour her brokenness into what she's nurturing. So I believe that through this foundation, Healing Our Legacy, helping women come into that place of healing our legacy so that we do not hand down broken legacies to the next generation, is how we're going to do damage on domestic violence, on trauma. Why? Because we need to stop passing down what was handed to us.
Yes.
A broken legacy is what we've been passing down. And I don't fault anyone. I believe that we have to be very intentional with this healing process, knowing what we're dealing with, knowing what grandma dealt with, what auntie dealt with, what's in my family line to help break these cycles and heal our legacy so that future generations will be healthier. That's what this legacy is all about. That's what the healing process is all about. And the Holes Foundation is helping women heal their stories, basically, so that they can pass that on to the next generation. Healing our legacy, embracing the resilience that's on the inside of us. It may
Yes.
be buried. You
Come
may not
on.
be able to see that because of the dark night you're in. You may
Yes.
not be able to see that because of the situation or the circumstance, but I'm here to tell you that wherever you are in your story, healing is possible. And so I'm just super excited about the foundation. I love the Holes Foundation because we're helping women heal their legacy. We're helping
Amen.
women talk about abuse. We're building a community where it's okay, it's comfortable, you're safe here, safe spaces and places for women of faith to come along and say, you know what, I'm in this relationship and I don't know what to do about it. And I don't know how to share this because maybe your mate is the pastor. Maybe your mate is another leader in the church and you don't have a safe community. This is a safe haven, a healing sanctuary for women to heal.
Yes, and I think that that's just so beautiful because I feel like, we all need a safe place where we can go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's beautiful that you have this community where women who have experienced domestic violence can go into a safe place because I don't feel like you can ever feel like you're in a safe place or with a group of people that understand when they haven't been through what you've been through. So this is just so amazing. Now, is it an online community or do you all meet up in person or have events?
It's
How do the women connect?
both. We have an online community and we
Okay.
also meet in person. We have a yearly domestic violence awareness event where we are just raising awareness, bringing education and empowerment to women that have been in abusive relationships. So we have an online community. We meet twice a month
Okay.
through our support group. It's virtual. And we come on and we talk about healing. We talk about how broke down we've been. We talk about I still love the man that abused me. We talk about I have babies from this man. And I still love him. We talk about the effects and the impact, and then we hold women's hands and say, it's going to be okay. But it's an open space and environment and community for women to come on. You don't have to put your camera on. I have mine on, but you don't have to put your camera on, so no one has to know who you are. You can
Yes.
just show up, listen, get information. We have resources. Also, if you're going through a domestic violence experience, you can reach out to me. You don't have to worry. Listen, I am built by confidence. Confidentiality is definitely one of our staples. No one will ever know that you reached out, and you have a safe place to heal.
That's amazing. Now, for women who would like to get connected and be a
Mhm.
part of the Holes Foundation,
Mhm.
how can they sign up and how can they join the community?
You can join the community two ways. You can actually go to tiffanymyers.org, or you can go to theholesfoundation.org and you can join. There is a registration. You can simply fill that out and we'll get the email and we'll register you. We'll send you our newsletters. Um, just come as you are. Just come as you are.
Amen. Now, if you could correct one myth that people have about survivors of domestic violence, what would that be?
I think one of the myths is that why do we stay, right? People
Mm-hmm.
always ask the question that we or it's not even asking the question, they automatically assume, well, she chose that. That that's what she get because she chose that.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't know the psychological effect, the mental effect of women that are in domestic violence relationship. Oftentimes there's a lot of trauma attached to the woman. It can be from her childhood, her upbringing. There's trauma. Wherever there's domestic violence, you're going to find trauma. That is just basically the effect of domestic violence. And so I would break that myth down today to say she's not there because she likes it. She's not there. Nobody gets into a relationship and say, hey, I just want to be hit every day, or I just want to be called out my name 3 and 4 times a day. I want to be called the B word, or I want to be called out these names. No woman does that. No woman goes into it with that in mind. They go into it with the thinking that this is the person that I love. This is the person that I'm going to marry. I'm going to raise my children with. And so I will break the myth that we're just here because, hey, this is what we want. No woman goes into it saying, this is what I want.
Amen. That is a very, very encouraging what you just shared, because I do think that on the outside looking in, a lot of times people feel like, okay, they're there because they want to be there,
Mm-hmm.
but not really taking into account the psychological side of it that's happening.
Right.
So that's very encouraging. And I think that this is why I'm saying I just love that you are sharing your story,
Mm-hmm.
and just also helping other women, because I don't think that if you haven't been in that situation, you really can't really understand like what that person is going through, what they're experiencing, what they're thinking. So, and there's so many myths out there about
Yes.
domestic violence,
Yes.
and so many things that
Yes.
are just out there, and it's just like, oh, they're, like you said, they're choosing to be that.
Right.
So it's so important to address those myths, because it's like you haven't been in that person's shoes,
Right.
so you don't really know.
Right.
And I agree. Like, I don't think that someone wakes up and says, well, I want to be beat up today, and I just want, no, there has to be something more to it than that,
Mm-hmm.
because I've met beautiful, intelligent women
Right.
who are in domestic violence situations. So it's like, okay, there has to be something more, because I don't think that this woman is just intentionally choosing to be in this situation, So we just have to sometimes show grace
Yeah.
and try to be understanding, and not just be so quick to draw conclusions about someone's situation.
I think breaking the stigma around domestic violence
Mm-hmm.
is truly important, because it's kind of like racial profiling, right?
Right.
There is a stigma around domestic violence, and
Mm-hmm.
so this is why a lot of women stay silent, simply because of the stigma. So why come out and be judged?
Right.
Why that was the shame that held me for so long. That's why I stayed in it for so long. I did not want to be judged. I wanted to, as I would say, I wanted people to accept me for myself. And I felt like if they knew my story, they would judge me. And so that's what held me in in that situation for
Mm-hmm.
longer than I really should have been. I talk to women all the time, even in the foundation. Domestic violence doesn't discriminate. I have police officers that are a part of my foundation. I have
Wow.
correctional officers that are a part of my foundation. So when we talk about domestic violence, it can happen to anybody. It's not just 76% of domestic violence victims are women. So the majority is, yes, we know that men are abused too,
Mm-hmm.
but the majority are women, and especially Black women, women of
Wow.
color. And so we really have to start addressing this particular issue head on, shining the light on it and talking about it, having these conversations like you're willing to have today with me on this issue of domestic violence.
Yes. Now, for a woman right now that is going through a domestic violence situation,
Mm-hmm.
just what message of encouragement would you like to give that woman?
I would say, first of all, know this: you're not alone.
Yes.
You are not alone. Even though it may seem like you're in the worst situation right now, it may seem like there's no way out, you may feel trapped. I want you to know today that there is hope and there is help. Just remember, we don't look at the bigger picture. There are days that you can take one small step at a time. A safety plan is going to be first and foremost, because oftentimes when we leave these relationships, there are women that have to leave in the ray of the night because of the abuse. And then there are women that have time to plan. So I would say that if you have time to plan, develop a safety plan, write on that safety plan, and begin to tell somebody. Find a trusted friend, someone that you can trust, and begin to share your plan with them so that you can begin to take the necessary steps to walk away from that relationship. It may not happen overnight, but one small step at a time. As you plan, put this plan together and begin to move in the direction forward. We don't look behind, we only look forward.
Amen. I love that. That was very, very, very inspiring. And I just want to thank you, Tiffany, for just sharing more of your story and about your foundation, and let our audience know how they can connect with you on social media. Because I know that they're like, okay, we need to follow, we need to get connected. So, how can they connect with you online?
You can definitely go to the Host Foundation Inc. For Facebook, and it's Recover Her on Instagram. So, and on TikTok, it's Recover Her. So we're on TikTok, we're on Facebook, and we're on Instagram for right now. And also, you can connect with me at tiffanymyers.org or thehostfoundation.org.
Awesome. So, you all make sure that you get connected to this powerful woman of God. And for those of you who are thinking about the Holes Foundation and you want to be a part, join this amazing community, go ahead and get connected. I believe that when you have someone that has been in the same situation as you are, you should connect to them. I believe that Tiffany's story is one that it shows the power of God, the redemption power of God, and that, okay, if God can do it for her, he can do it for you also. So you don't have to stay silent. You don't have to stay in that place where you feel like there's no way out. But as the woman of God shared, there's a community and resources and things out there. So you don't have to make that excuse anymore. Now is the time to get help and to get the support that you need. So I want to thank you again, Tiffany, for sharing your story and for your time. And I want to thank you all for tuning in and joining us. For those of you who are watching us on YouTube, make sure you go ahead and you hit that subscribe button. And those of you that are following us, that are watching us on Facebook, go ahead and hit that follow button. Make sure you're following us so you can get those notifications when we go live and our upcoming guests and upcoming topics. And I want to just share one last announcement. So we do have the Activate conference that's going to be coming up April the 11th, 2026. So you see the flyer there on the screen. The tickets are still available. Our early bird tickets are available. Tickets are only $20. So we're going to be having the day session with Prophetess Fiji and also Dr. Fayola. And the night conference is going to be with Prophet Samuel Clarkson Williams. So you guys don't want to miss it. God is going to move mightily. And for those of you who want to be vendors, we do also have vendor tables available for only $75. So make sure you click on the link and get registered. So again, I want to thank you all for tuning in, and you all